Welcome back to another episode of LANCESCURV, LANCESCURV.com. You know, these days there's just so much to talk about. Seriously. I mean, but I kind of feel that we're not talking about the right things. Our focus has been diverted into areas that amount to nothing at all once the dust is settled. And we're not gaining, we're not growing, we're not getting better as a people. And it's just a waste of time. You know, we have all these things we see on social media, which again, social media is like one big open market that you can choose to go where you want to go. And most often we choose to go the decadent way, which can oftentimes be entertaining, but you got to understand there's got to be a healthy balance. See, we had a balance back in the day. You know, when the young guys would find the magazines that their older brothers had stashed away between the mattress and the box spring or somewhere tucked away, they didn't walk around brazen in front of their mother and father with those magazines. They'd make sure to sneak into it. At least we had a bit of respect for people. But now, there's no boundaries. Melisha, how are you doing on this Sunday morning? For me, the afternoon. I'm here relaxing, so I'm going to have more of a laid back tone to my voice and not so excited, which I am excited to be here with everybody. If for any reason this particular stream blinks out and you don't hear me, give me about 90 seconds and I'll be back on. Little glitches in the power do happen and it knocks me off completely. So I will be back. Just bear with me. But not to sound like that old geezer, but things are really off the chain now compared to the old days. And some people are going to say, oh, you're living back in the past in the older days. What do you mean by that? The older days. Gadsden Gallery, welcome. And Instagram, the British Wolf, Sarah Smiley, Dewdrop. We haven't talked in a long time. Now, Instagram chat room is to my left on another computer, so I might miss it because I'm watching ahead of me. But way back growing up, you know, there were minor infractions of what we would do that we would consider, or someone would consider rude. Charles Wilson on YouTube, thank you for being here. You know, we're going to do our thing again. I promise as the time comes in, we're going to do more and more. And I do have more time. I do have lots of things to still do, but I'm going to push and make sure we talk about some relevant things and keep it entertaining at the same time. Because it seems like these days, what they call common sense, it's rare now. What we call respect is rare now. What we call healthy boundaries, it's like it's non-existent. Healthy boundaries. You know, I've seen young girls. I mean, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we all have seen. But I just want to go down the list of different scenarios, and I don't really have a list. This is just off the top of my dome. But we see young girls speak to their mothers in such a disrespectful way in public. Like, it makes us grit our teeth. Sometimes you could be in a supermarket or the mall, and you have a young daughter curse the mother out. Curse the mother out who raised her. Curse the mother out who is taking care of her. And it's like that daughter is running things. So what went wrong? I mean, why does that mother allow this? It didn't happen out of nowhere. It had to gradually happen to the point where it became the norm. And it's very confusing and awkward to be in the presence of such disrespect. Because you want to say to that young girl, you don't talk to your mother that way. But we all have learned that if we did step in to say that, we'll get cursed out too. And that mother's not going to say anything. Something went wrong. You see, these are the batons that should be passed down from generation to generation. And I blame those who have the position, who are in charge to make the correction in any situation. Situations where I'm not blaming the girls, coming back to that. Well, girls will bring in boyfriends to live under the mother's roof. Of course, usually there's no father there. And oftentimes you have a nondescript father there who just is a guy who may go out and get a paycheck and sit down and drink his Heineken and whatever and doesn't even care what goes on in the house. We need more real men. We need more real men to enforce what is right, what is good, what is proper, to build that foundation. We need real women who understand the role that he has and understand the roles that are interlocking that he has, and they work together. A car can't have one wheel and be a car without the three other wheels. They've got to work together. And when the tires get out of alignment, those tires have got to be put in alignment. So when we have our roles in the household, the foundation for the community, all in alignment, everything goes smooth in the household. And when all of the households in the community are in alignment, the community works better. But when you're out of line, how can we know or enforce what's proper? You see, maybe that young daughter saw the mother do some things that she told her not to do. Now she doesn't respect her. Maybe the young son saw the father do some things before he came home or was coming out of a house that he shouldn't have been coming out of. And while the father may have been someone who was very strict and authoritarian, well, guess what? There goes the credibility out of the window. There's a degradation that has been passed down, that when our youngsters act a certain way, a lot of us just sit down and shut up because we know that we don't have a leg to stand on to tell them right from wrong. Yes, always, always. Brother Landon, welcome on in. And Charles says, thanks for the shout out, Brother Lance. Yes, grateful for your Brother Lance. This is the talks we need to help us stay sane, direct, straightforward, up front, in first person, me, myself, and I. Yes, indeed, we do. We do. And it, as much as Indigo King, welcome on in, brother. Wow, we getting everybody on in. I love this. This is at the good present days. I'm not gonna just say the good old days, because in the future we'll look back on the present time for what we do and how we live and still say it's the good old days. I would love to say and include the world in that. And the world is not a bad, terrible place, because there are a lot of good people out there that we have yet to know that are thinking the same things. Beautiful. Beautiful, healthy thing to do on a Sunday. After this, I'm going to take a walk out at some point. Maybe I'll do some video like I wanted to in the yard, even though over here is slightly overcast, it doesn't matter. And then I'll take my walk out, come back and probably hit another show later on when the topic comes to me. We're free flowing that way, right? But like I said, there are a lot of good people out there, and it's up to us to stand our ground and what we understand to be the truth. Willie Rivers, thank you for coming on in, and move that way, no matter how corny it may seem. And look, it's funny that whatever age you are, when you look back, things in this regard were so much better. Yes, we had extreme dysfunction in certain places, and it just seems to be far and few between. But let me go back a little more before I really get into just the topic of boundaries. When you go back to the crack era in the Black community, and that's my concern. I don't hate anybody, but that's my concern. When you go back to that era, that just did something to us. I mean, that really unraveled us. What little bit of dignity, what little bit of decency, I'm not speaking for everybody or saying everybody, but it took things down to such a decadent level and removed almost an entire generation. Many people, and I'm quite sure Gadsden Gallery can, because we grew up together, went to junior high school together. When you look back after that, back then in the 70s, Gadsden Gallery, I mean, and this is for everybody, but I know her face to face, and I know she's reputable, successful, and upright. She is. Once you know a person's character from younger and they still maintain this all these years, even though it's been decades since I've seen you, sister, you can remember When we were in junior high school, those were the last of the sweetest free days. There was heroin in the streets. We had prostitutes. We had people hustling and breaking in people's houses. We didn't live in a hood, but that drug damn near turned where we lived into a hood in the early 80s, where it had hood aspects to it. You still had decent grown-ups and parents in households, but that thing touched many of us. My own brother, older than me by 11 years, it got him. But even before that, he was indulging in drugs. And that's what pushed me the other way and listened to my parents, and I despised what it did. But so many people fell victim to that. And even though so many have defeated it and come out of it, there's something that we lost. It stripped us of something that many of us are still recuperating from. It has destroyed families on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, to the point where there's something stripped. It's almost like those who they claim went to the Vietnam War and came back different from what they saw. Well, it may not have been bombs dropping, but when we went through the crack era, even if it didn't affect anybody in your home, it may be somebody in your family who didn't live in your home. It might have been somebody in your neighborhood who you knew, maybe a good friend. It hurt to see them have their soul ripped out of them, to the point where you wonder if it's still them. Now, you know the body is still the same, but from my personal experience with my brother, he became something else. Something was taken out of him and it was replaced via that drug. The drug was a catalyst for this spiritual transformation, which wasn't a good thing. See, when we hear the word spiritual, it doesn't always mean something positive with the God force, right? And I do use the word God. Can I use the word God? We got people out here living all kind of decadent, wayward lifestyles, and we're forced to respect them and their choices as they parade it around in our face. So you mean I can't say God because we know that this spirit that's moving across the earth is all anti-God force, most high, whatever you want to call them. And I say him, her, him. Because it takes two. They say Mother Nature, but we always discount the female energy. I am the male energy and the female energy, but I'm a man. Our sisters are the female energy and they have the male energy in them in different proportions. Just the same way on a hormonal level, the dominant hormone for me is testosterone, but I do have estrogen, right? Which is predominant in the female. But the females produce a little testosterone, even though they don't possess testicles like a man does to manufacture it on a higher level. So let's get past this, or he and her, and I say it, but I quickly correct myself and always acknowledge that it's a her and a him, that energy in one. That's how we're produced. Ain't no man lay down by himself and create me. It had to be another component in there. But even with my brother, I began to see that he eventually turned into something that had the shell. He had the visage of my brother and the memories of my brother, but he learned to prostitute that, to get over, to appeal to you, bringing up memories and having this forced camaraderie. It was like he was demon possessed, but he was taken out and the demon was put in and had access to all the things that can butter me up. And I did want to mention that because this time, on this day, 30 years ago, I had to make the decision to pull the plug on my mother, who had her second stroke. And she was basically brain dead, no activity in the brain. And it was a very painful day for me, of course, because I had signed the papers. It was several days, almost a week, where there was no activity. And she always told me that if I find myself in this position, let me go. There's no need in keeping a body alive, but there's no brain and having your soul trapped. So I made the decision after I knew that there was no chance. She had one stroke in July of 93, and then she had this one in April of 94. So I had to live with this, and I had to think about this. And so I went the day before to the doctors and spoke with them and said, okay, I'm going to do it. We're going to do it high up in the day, 12 noon, the strongest part vibrationally in the world. Because if you know, your internal organs and your body and your spirit is at its highest point at 12 noon. Now, if you happen to work at night and you're tired, it doesn't change that. Your digestive system, all of your systems work at their strongest when the sun is highest above you. So if I'm to release her to the next level, I'm going to do it at that time. So I really didn't sleep good the night before, but I finally got to dozing off around maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I got a phone call from the hospital. And this is what I mean about decency and respect. It was a doctor who called me to let me know that my mother had transitioned. They had pulled the cord and let her go. Against my wishes, I wasn't there to hold her hand and talk to her a little bit, whether she could hear me or not. I know she was trapped in that body somehow, and I knew she could feel me if she couldn't physically hear me. Let me tell you something. This was 30 years ago. And I may not have been here because the way I felt, I never carried weaponry, didn't need it, didn't live that way. But I know people who could have easily supplied it to me, and I could have got up there and cleaned off that whole floor, which other people weren't responsible for that. But the way I took it was that, oh, they needed the room, so let's just go ahead and do this like it doesn't mean something to somebody. So every time this time of the year comes around, I'm a little bit down in my spirit. Although I feel good today, I understand what it is. She's free, and I'll be a representative of her and what she taught me. Although in my younger years and around those days, I was still involved in a lifestyle that involved many women in my life, not just as friends either, if you know what I mean. But that was one of the things that caused me to turn everything around. And we don't know how things turn out, but there was somebody in my life primarily. I was letting things go and trying to change. 3 weeks later, I was married. Now that was a reactionary thing because I lost my mother and I understood that, but I tried my best. That's a whole other story. But to get back on topic, healthy boundaries. When you have no boundaries, then things can get out of hand. Say, for example, we put fences and we put walls up. And I'll admit that I put a very high wall up around my house that's just recently completed with a little more to go. I don't mind putting it out there. Because if you're not respected, if your boundaries are not respected, then you're going to have to enforce the boundary be respected. Every time I've gone over a friend's house, whether they're parents, and this is when I'm a teenager and younger, and even as an adult, if they allow me to walk into their living room, they have to tell me that I can sit down. Now, we all have that best friend where we can go over and we don't have to really, because we're super close that way. But in the presence of the parents, I'm going to walk past them and go in their refrigerator and look and see what I can eat. Oh, that's a violation. I can't go in there with profanity on my lips, speaking all kind of ways. Now, you know, girls talk and you know, guys talk and you know, guys sometimes. So what did you do with the night before? Well, no, I can't talk that kind of stuff. I can't do it. But you have households that are just off the chain. So I'm going to read off my notes. I'm not going to take too long. This is not going to be a long speech or anything, because we'll be back later on. I got a few things I have to do today, but I want to be more productive on these platforms because we have and had a lot of work to do. So thank you so much. And also going through the attack on my former channel. And I will say it, one of my computers is infected with some type of keystroke virus that when I strike a key, somebody else knows what it is. So I have limited access to that computer and don't really go on in a private way until I have it cleaned. And then I'm saying to myself, it's an old computer, laptop, is it worth being cleaned? These people know, whoever it is who hacked me, but every single platform I have, it's compromised because I use the old email. But they've gotten into that one, but I'm on this and I figured it out. Be very careful where you go online. Be very careful what you may download that looks innocent, because the enemy is out there just for the reason of messing you up. If you go to my site and look at the old videos and pull them up in the embedded area, it says these videos are private. So somebody doesn't want to take away everything, but they made it private to the point where I can't get to it. So you know what? We're going to keep on moving forward and talk the talk we have to talk and share what we have to share and continue to pass the baton of righteousness while we still have fun. Listen, I'm going to have adult shows. We're going to tell some jokes. I'll let you know ahead of time. We can do that because we have the filters. We have the filters of decency on how we were raised to know when certain things are appropriate and certain things are not, because I'm like Red Fox. I can get real hardcore. But when I do that, you also know that I am decent. I'm not going to disrespect. I'm not going to cross the line. There are areas and times for that, right? But when you come out of that, you have your little giggles and fun. You got to understand that people are watching. In today's society, traditional boundaries are evolving rapidly, and with them, the dynamics of human relationships are shifting. The once clear lines that delineated personal space, relationships, and interactions are becoming increasingly blurred, leading to potential clashes and conflicts if not navigated with care and respect. As we embrace new living arrangements and proximities that were once considered unconventional, it becomes crucial to understand the importance of healthy boundaries and how to maintain them in various scenarios. And we're going to go over a few of them. And I wrote a lot for each. I'm not going to do it every single one, because everything is on LANCESCURV.com. And let me see if I can share that screen also. I haven't done this in a while, so I don't want to mess up. So give me a second to get this screen right. And I don't know if you can really see the writing on the, no, you won't be able to, because that's just too much of a fine print. But everything is on LANCESCURV.com. And what I'll do, just for the sake of having it, I'm going to drop this link into the chat room for those who see this presentation and say, you know what, I want to get down and I want to check this out. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll drop it right here. Right? That's anybody who later on wants to read it. It's a lot. But I'm back on the screen. Let me do it. Number one, multi-generational living. As illustrated in the example provided, the dynamics of living with multiple generations under one roof can lead to clashes if boundaries are not respected. The solution lies in open communication and establishing clear boundaries regarding personal space, responsibilities, and expectations. Establish designated personal spaces for each family member. Encourage open communication to address any issues, and create a family agreement outlining responsibilities and boundaries. Number 2, roommate conflicts. Whether it's sharing living spaces or splitting household chores, disagreements between roommates can arise when boundaries are not clearly defined. Setting ground rules and regularly revisiting them can help prevent misunderstandings and conflicts. Schedule regular roommate meetings to discuss concerns and establish clear guidelines for shared spaces, chores, and guest policies. Consider using a chore chart or shared calendar to keep track of responsibilities. Number 3, work-life balance. With remote work becoming more common, the line between professional and personal life can blur. Establishing designated workspaces and setting boundaries around work hours can help maintain a healthy balance and prevent burnout. Set boundaries around work hours and communication, create a designated workspace separate from living areas, and prioritize self-care activities to maintain a healthy balance between work and personal life. I can tell you that that's very true, even just with yourself. Say, for example, you don't have to worry about boundaries because you have your own home, house, apartment, condo, whatever it may be. Even if it's a room, you're living by yourself. So you don't have these issues, but you might be well aware of it because of the way that you were raised. And maybe you prefer it this way because you don't have to deal with those issues of boundaries, because as soon as you close the door, that's the ultimate boundary, right? But even within being by yourself, me and Miss Serve are together. But even within my own mind, separate from her, I can't really draw in the same area where I sit down and do a show. I can't really write in the areas that I like to draw in. Every area has its own energy. This doesn't have anything to do with the healthy boundaries that we're speaking about. But within your own life, I find that you have to compartmentalize where you do your activities. Because if I sit by this desk and prepare a show, which I take time, some people just click the phone and you see their face and they talk, they click it off. I like to present something a little more detailed. That's the artist in me, right? I want to make sure to put the date on the banner. Sometimes I mess up the date, right? But other than that, you put everything right and you prepare. And it takes a lot. It's routine for me, but I don't want to sit here now and write a long article in the same area. I want to go to another part of the house or one of my other balconies where the sun can be on me, and I feel more so that my activity is more of a pleasurable thing and more of a love thing than you have to sit there for 8-9 hours and do all of these different things. So let me tell you something. When you're doing this stuff, time flies. Here's another one: social media boundaries. In an age of constant connectivity, that's we got to talk about, it's essential to respect boundaries on social media, such as avoiding oversharing personal information or tagging others without their consent. Clear communication about privacy preferences is key. Review privacy settings regularly. Communicate openly about what can and cannot be shared online. And respect others' wishes regarding tagging and sharing of personal information. Not everybody wants to see everything that you want to see. I have friends. I know what they like. I don't send them everything that I see that I know that they like, because that might be 10 things a day. But if it's something that I know that they would really appreciate seeing, I'll send it to them. And I have a personal limit where it may be 2 things a day, tops. And if I see 5 things, I might spread it out over the next 5 days, because they have other people tagging them. They have family. They have lives face to face and things they want to do. But there are people that I know that from way back in the day, they have a certain mindset. And we understand that some people sniff coke, some people smoke crack, some people shoot heroin, some people gamble, and some people have porn addictions. And just because a person is a childhood buddy where you experience things at the same time they did and used to giggle and talk about it, doesn't mean that I want to see 300 and 400 different pornographic movies sent to me every single day. Imagine 300 and 400. Don't send me that at all. If I wanted to consume that kind of content, I know where to go. I'm too busy for that. Boom, 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 boom. Then all of a sudden you get single pictures, a couple of hundred of those. You got to clear it off your phone. That needs to be confronted. And some people keep on going. So you're going to have to block them. And when you block them, they get mad. Why did you block me? Look what you're doing, man. I don't want that mess. I've lived life. We're all sexual beings, but come on, who wants to sit down? Don't you have other things to do? Me as a man, I've got to earn my orgasms. I sit around and play around all day and all spent. And what kind of life is that? That's an issue that you have that points to a bigger problem. But even if it wasn't pornography, it could be just flooding you out with things that are irrelevant. You know, calling you, and they don't know you. See, now with Instagram and Facebook and I think Telegram and what else? Even WhatsApp, when you're in certain group rooms, even if they don't show the number, you can hit a button and call them. Now, one of my closest friendships was from someone I followed, and I was going to one of the art supply stores over here in Osu, in Accra, and I was admiring her pictures. It wasn't a lust thing, but she would wear these East African outfits. She'd travel there frequently, and she was a model. And just artistically, I was a fan of hers. I put the phone in my pocket, and this is what I heard. Now, you know the last person you text, the last person you were on a social media platform with, you might just hit that button by mistake. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's in the afternoon. I pulled it open and I was calling her. I felt rotten. She said, hello. And I'm like, listen, I'm so sorry. I was looking at your pictures and your videos. You did a little vacation, did a little trip, and I was watching when I was eating in a restaurant. I am so sorry. I did not mean to intrude. And I was so apologetic. I didn't want her thinking I was a creep. And she said, Lance, it's okay. I follow you too. I was like, oh my God. She says, I know you wouldn't do anything like that. But anyway, how you been? So we talking. Wonderful conversation. We keep up with things and share things and got to know each other quite well on a righteous and decent level. And I would never send her, she likes cats and I like cats. So anything cat-like, and she doesn't mind if I send her 5 or 10 things a day. And I don't mind if she sends 25 things a day. I love those little cat things, right? Little videos, little funny things they do. I love cats, right? But that was rare. But people don't have any boundaries to think. Maybe they might be sleeping. I'm going to call them. Now, yes, I put my number out there and I deal with it and I don't get mad because I understand that people sometimes forget what time zones you're in. That doesn't bother me. So that part doesn't bother me. But when you call me in the middle of a show and you're watching the show and I know, why are you calling me? If you call me to tell me gossip about somebody else, that very well may be true. What is that doing to elevate me? If you send me 50 million things or put something out there that shouldn't be put out there. Hey man, Lance, man, I remember the time you punched that guy in the face and knocked him out. I'm not proud of that stuff. And anytime I had to do something like that, I was defending myself. But people oftentimes, and I think because we lost something in the crack era, we lost something watching Jerry Springer, and now we got social media where there are no boundaries. Ladies, many of you understand how rude and nasty men can be. Not all men, but a lot of men. Just nasty. Brother Jeff, I didn't see you, man. I was just looking out the window while I talk to keep my thoughts together. Let me scroll. Matthew White, I missed you too. Welcome on in. And I did acknowledge you, Willie Rivers. I was in the zone. Let me get back in the zone. Now what? I became derailed. But those boundaries have been broken down. And we can follow people on social media, and people can stalk you. People can fixate on you. Because when you're on Facebook or Instagram, depending on how much you share, they're right there with you, all up in your life. You see, you might take a picture in your living room, but they're watching your couch. They're looking at what kind of TV you have. If you're in the garage, they're looking at what kind of car you have, what you put up when you're on vacation. They go down your list of followers. I have somebody who follows me that I've known for a long time, and it's not super close, but I know who they are. And I was surprised that, and I don't really have time to mess around on Facebook or to mess around where I'm talking with everybody or I see everything you put up on your page. Could you imagine? I'm no better than anybody else, but can you imagine me? Been online since 2001? All the connections that I have? How am I going to go and look at everybody's page? Do you understand there are people who I know that I reached out to? I was like, listen, I mean, I've actually called them. Hey, how are you? I haven't spoken to you in a while. You know? Oh, I'm not talking to you. My mama died 3 months ago and you ain't say nothing. I said, I didn't know. What happened to calling a person when things like that happen? Well, I put it up on my page. I wouldn't be able to do shows if I sat here and went down everybody's page. So I'm going to say that to those who are here, to those who are hearing this after the fact, there's a lot that comes at me. I create content and I distribute it online, and sometimes you might be on and I'll see you. And of course I'm going to respond to you. Of course I'm going to say hi and we can chat. I might have time to say, okay, let's chat. I'm going to the supermarket. I'll be out there for 2 hours and I'm going to go to the restaurant. I'm going to come back. Let's catch up. So with me, don't think that, well, you ain't talked to me in 6 months. You ain't talked to me in a year. I might see you there on Instagram and Facebook and beyond. But it may not be where I'm able, not that I'm better than anybody else, but I'm like, listen, I got an hour to get this done. Then I got to go do this and do that. Look, as much as I may have done on social media and try to do more now, there's a whole lot of things going on in my life right now on a positive level. And this is the time to get those things done. So we need to know with the social media life and our social media existence that we have real people here. So this is why I truly appreciate those who come here and listen and vibe with me, because there's a lot of other things to watch. I'm not the only platform in the world. Right? There's things I watch. There's things I subscribe to. And I don't even have the time to watch it all. There's some hot stuff going on right now in bodybuilding and in the sport of boxing that I want to be involved in on the new platforms that I'm making. But I'm not going to forsake this one. Everything will happen in time. Number 5, intimate relationships. Boundaries are crucial in romantic relationships to ensure each partner's autonomy and emotional well-being. Discussing boundaries around personal space, communication, and individual needs can strengthen the relationship. Have open and honest conversations about individual needs and boundaries. Establish ground rules for communication and conflict resolution. And prioritize mutual respect and consent in all interactions. It's better to be one who, I don't mean walk on eggshells like you're scared of the person, but in an almost apologetic manner, deal with them. You're in a relationship, take time with them. You know, some people don't care about certain boundaries. Listen, fellas, just because you were intimate with that one you were intimate with, I can't say whether it's your wife or girlfriend or one night stand, whatever it may be, that's your business. And this goes for ladies dealing with men. Just because you swung from the chandeliers and did every kind of footsie position, remember the game footsie? That doesn't mean that when she's in the bathroom that you have a right to barge in. It doesn't mean that the door is cracked to the restroom that you have the right to go and put your eye and have a conversation. They might be pushing out something, taking a dump. Let's just be real. And they may not be comfortable with that. I'm a private person. See, I got two personalities. No, I don't have a split personality. Let me rephrase that. I have a vast array of aspects to my one personality. Push come to shove, if we out in the woods and there's no cover and I got to take a dump and you don't want to pull your eyes away from me, I'm going to look you dead in the eye and not miss a word in the conversation, right? I eat vegetables, I drink a lot of water. There's no pushing. But if there was, you might see that vein in my neck and my forehead while I'm talking to you with no shame. I never allow people to shame me, but I like my privacy. But I will always extend it to the next person. See? Fellas, you might have had that wonderful night with that young lady, but let her get dressed by herself. If you can sense that. You need to talk about that. Sweetheart, we got along quite well, but I want to know what makes you feel uncomfortable. I don't want to overstep my bounds that just because we did this the night before that I have the right to be all over you in the street. When you may be a person who's conservative and reserved and don't want to put your business all out in the street. Some people want to be lovey-dovey and kissy-kissy, and it's okay if you both agree on that. Personal relationships, I had to say it because many of us don't understand those things. Healthy boundaries. Where are yours? Find out where mine are, and let's come to an agreement so there's no tension. There's no tension. Some guys like to kiss up on their woman when the woman don't want to be bothered out in the middle of the street. Like, again, she might be conservative. And you may think, oh, was you hiding something? You got you another Negro? Or you, what? No, it's not that. Open up your mind. Certain things don't need to be broadcast out in the street. Healthy boundaries. Find out if it's okay. The relationships that I've had, I had no problem with a woman being all over me. Once I see that's the A-okay, we can do this, fine. I'm reserved that way. But again, I have that side of me that you cannot shame. You ain't gonna shame me. If I got to do what I got to do, whatever, bodily functions or whatever, or you find out something about me, let's talk about it. Ain't no shame here. That's my weapon. And there are reasons why I'm like that. I've trained myself to be that way. But can you handle it if it comes back your way? Number 6, parent-child relationships. Even as children grow into adulthood, boundaries in parent-child relationships need to evolve. That's something we need to know. Respecting each other's autonomy and setting boundaries around advice giving and decision making can foster mutual respect and understanding. Acknowledge and respect each other's autonomy. Communicate openly about expectations and boundaries and seek compromise when conflicts arise by finding mutually acceptable solutions. Listen, just because you're the father and just because you're the mother and your son or your daughter is married now, living elsewhere under a roof of their own, you still have to have them tell you certain things. Be polite. Now, for me, if my parents were alive, I wouldn't have them have to wait for me to tell them to sit down, but extend to them. Treat them like the grown folks that they are now. Just because you remember changing their diapers and you're holding them up and they drooling all over you, right? And you used to wash them and you see their little pee-pee. Nah, it's not like that no more. But you can still have that while you respect each other's boundaries. Especially with parents or the mother or the father, because sometimes one is deceased or it didn't work out in their marriage or whatever. Maybe they weren't married. I don't know. But whatever the situation, also for those parents, you need to know that your role has evolved. Of course, if your married son or daughter needed help and they had an extreme medical situation and you had to wipe their backside for them, let's just say, and that mate of theirs weren't around, You'll always be the mother and you'll always be the father when needed. Does the fireman drive up in the fire truck and go to the fire hydrant and shoot water all over your house? It's not needed. But when needed, you're there. Well, we're going to shoot water all over your house because we have a feeling that your house might catch on fire tomorrow. What? Ain't no layaway playing with water. If needed. And sometimes you can notice things and see things and just be kind at the proper time to say, if you ever need advice, you know you can always come to me, and leave it at that. Your grown children are not babies anymore. You have to also respect that one that your child chose to marry or be in a relationship with. You can't try to claim that, well, I'm his or her mother, or I'm his or her father, and this is the way it's going to go. No, you can't do that. And since we're speaking on that, there's a clip that I found off of X. Sweet D, welcome in. I'm seeing you more and more. The timing and the planets are lining up just like with the solar eclipse. This is a different day now. I'm going to remove this particular banner, and I'm going to play this clip that I had waiting. Just let me know if you can hear the sound when I play it. And from what I gather, let me just say what I get. So because it's going to be kind of confusing if you just really listen to it. But you see here it says, when your boyfriend, or it should be boyfriend's mom, disrespects you. But I can see things from all different angles. It wasn't just one-sided. So I said, this would be good to play. And to really get it, I'm going to play it more than one time. So here we go. Let me see from this screen. We can see it. And let me go there and play it.
So what's wrong with boundaries?
I mean, what do you mean by boundaries?
I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. It's really making me uncomfortable. It is your mom, but she doesn't know boundaries. Tyler, what don't you understand?
Okay, so can you? All right, so I'm gonna give you an example. So if we was to go on vacation,
I don't want to hear no example. What about how I feel? So it's your mom over me. You don't care about how I feel.
It's a great balance between the both. But it's always you. But it's gonna be my mom too.
Miss Audrey, ma'am.
Mom.
Excuse me.
Don't go, please.
Audrey, Tyler, shut up. Audrey, let me get you straight. That's my son. I don't know how you grew up or whoever raised you, but that's mine, okay? And that's what I need you to understand. It has nothing to do with you. My boundaries, you saying that I go in your stuff, no, I'm cleaning it because you're nasty. Tyler, I told you could have did better a long time ago.
I love her.
No, you don't. You don't know. You couldn't possibly know what love is, Tyler. She's only with you for your money.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. What do you do? Mom. What do you do for a living? You do nothing.
I have an online business.
You just want to sit here and be cute.
I have an online business.
But what money does it make? It's Tyler's money.
It makes money.
No, it's Tyler's money. It's not your money.
Who asked you to come in here?
No one asked me. My son pays bills here. You don't pay bills, sweetie.
Okay.
You don't pay bills. You pay no bills here.
So are you gonna let her talk?
I can talk to her anyway. I please, because guess what? You came from me, Tyler.
No, I'm saying no. Come on, you can't be disrespectful.
This is way too uncomfortable.
You can't be disrespectful.
You know what, Tyler?
This is my lady.
Uncomfortable.
You can't be doing
it's
this.
Audrey.
I'm going to play that not right now because I want to look at it from different points of view. So let me get back over here. Okay, was loud enough? Great. Thank you, Melisha. Thank you so much. I'll just stick this banner up. We'll stick up another one, right? Yeah. Looking at it from the mother's point of view, it seems like she had, and this is about boundaries. This all should have been discussed because we can see that, well, the mother and the son and the girlfriend, they're all living under the same roof. Now, maybe the mother is living with the son and the girlfriend, but I kind of feel that it's the son and the girlfriend living with the mother. Because maybe she wouldn't have had the gall to come out and talk about how she's not paying bills and what she's doing online. That's the business. It depends where they are. If they're at his place then that's none of her business, because he's allowing this and this is their agreement. Maybe he has her doing something online and starting a business, which starting a business online, as many of you know, is extremely difficult, much less a social media presence. But if it's the mother's place, I'm not going to say she has the right to blurt out these things that she's been harboring like that in a confrontational manner. But she allowed them, if it is her place, she allowed them to come back, which we know pretty much she has no problem with the son whose name is Tyler, because that's the son. But if you're really mature enough, you'll say, okay, he has his love interest. Maybe you might be the type of person to say, well, listen, you all need to be married. Well, that's your rules if it is, but you allowed them in, right? So sometimes we harbor feelings that we should speak on before it gets to be explosive and confrontational this way. Because the young lady here seemed to be shocked, although she may have sensed that there was some hidden underlying feelings. You see what I mean? So these are different things that we need to discuss with the healthy boundaries. Because really and truly, if you put people together who actually love each other in too close of a space, there's going to be conflict. Now, emergencies happen. We lose loved ones, and family has to get together and go from one state to the next for a little while until the arrangements are made. And so we understand that emotions run high, and that you got to give up that bedroom because we got some guests coming and they got to take your bedroom, and you got to be on the couch, or, you know, it's just mayhem for a while. Well, in that situation, things may fly around, but we have to have discussions and we have to respect each other. Now, as far as the son is concerned, the mother seemed to be in that clip. I'm going to play it again too, so we can get another look at it, and then we'll move on with the other points. But it seemed as though the mother had something to prove to the girlfriend. Well, that's my son. He came out of me. So I'm always looking at things deep. And I said to myself, I don't know all of the dynamics of that particular clip, but let me reach a little bit. Sometimes you have mothers who have good sons, responsible, upright, morally correct, law-abiding, and they're proud of them. And that same mother may have been in a relationship, of course she had to some degree, to create the son. And maybe that father was that no good guy who didn't work, who womanized, who was lazy, who wasn't responsible. She just happened to believe whatever he was telling her, romanticized it, and sperm hit egg. Now she sees her son, who was a good son. His mind is in the right place. He's responsible. And he sees her with this girlfriend. The girlfriend, let's just say she's not evil. I don't really feel she's evil from the clip that I saw, but let's speak in a general sense. That innocent girlfriend who may feel uncomfortable living under the roof of the mother, but maybe she needed financial help. And the son was living with the girlfriend or vice versa. He said, okay, we're going to come there under the same roof and we'll help you out for a time, or for as long as what's necessary. Okay. You had situations like that years ago. That's not a traditional situation unless there's sickness involved. So now that mother sees the good son taking care of his girlfriend. Now she may not be married to him, but she's bitter because she never found a man as good as how the son treats the girlfriend. So she feels territorial over that son. That's why she had to tell him he came out of me, or I had him, or whatever, to let her know he's mine. But the son could never be yours, mother, in the way that he is to her. Because we got to understand, as we get older, relationships change and evolve as they should. It's not a competition. Your son is made to find his own, just the way your daughter is made to go find her own if it happens. Sometimes it happens early. Sometimes it happens late. Sometimes we make decisions based on lust or the way our minds were thinking at the time, and years later go by, we say, what were we thinking about? But you have to allow a person who's growing up to make their decisions and make their choices and scrape their knees symbolically to learn how to balance themselves on that emotional bike when it comes to relationships. Now, if you see something really bad as a parent and you got to step in, by all means, do so. But not from a mindset of competing with your son or your daughter's attention because you feel that that spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend is taken away from you. Your role has changed. And maybe you didn't get the memo, but these are adults now, and they've got to make their own choices. So exactly, it seems there's some of that, and it could be a combination of many things. Let me tell you something. We're not talking on a level of actual physical incest. No, I'm not talking about that, although that's happening more than what we can imagine. And let me just go off of this for a second and say it. I was near the Accra Mall, walking toward the Accra Mall, and you have a lot of people out here who get their little speakers and the microphone and the amplifier, and they preach curbside. And usually half and half, some will speak Tree, the native language here, of which is many. That's just one of them. And sometimes they speak English, and most of the time they do speak English. And this preacher was speaking English. It was two of them. It was a male and a female. I don't know if they were husband or wife because I was walking by pretty fast, but the speakers were loud. So I got a chance to hear from when I got off the van all the way up to when I got to the mall. And I had to stop at one point and say to myself, did I hear what I heard? I couldn't believe it. The woman preacher, the female preacher, she said, I'm going to speak about something that's quite prevalent out here in Ghana. I don't know about South America. I don't know about the Gambia. I don't know about Kenya. I don't know about any other country, the Congo, Nigeria. I don't know, but I'm telling you what's going on here. You mothers out here that are sleeping with your sons on a regular basis, and you started them from young, and you have them groomed, and they come by, and from the surface, it looks like a mother-son relationship. You hug and you kiss decently, but when them doors close, you mothers, not all of you, but too many of you are having sex with your sons. And we ain't talking about 13 and 9 and what, it started out that way. But there's no way you as a 60-year-old woman should be going to bed with your 40-year-old son. Man, I tried to walk, my feet stayed stuck to the ground. I said, what the heck am I hearing? And then the male preacher got in on that. He said, it ain't just the mothers. You fathers who feel that you have to sample your daughter's goods. I feel sick even repeating this thing. You fathers who feel that you need to be the first in your daughter's life, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You need to stop. You're on an express lane to hell. And I'm like, I never heard no preacher say, we've addressed molestation, and in churches we've addressed it, and people talk about these things, but that's something that is far and few between. But you got to look at the mentality of people. You got to look at the mentality of a culture, the mindset. I don't know how much of that is going on here and there. I know we have the pedo word. I don't want to say the full word because they might flag this video, because enough of them are out there and don't want you to talk about it. They're in high places. But I don't know the proportions. Maybe we'll never know. We'll never know the full statistics because there's so many things going on behind closed doors. But if you're a child or you're someone who's young and somebody in your family approaches you the wrong way, you have the right to announce and proclaim your boundary. And there's certain things that don't need to be happening. And for the sake of that, I'm going to also go back and play this again so we can get another viewpoint, and we'll move on and we can continue in the comment section. Talk about it.
So what's wrong with boundaries?
I mean, what do you mean by boundaries?
I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. It's really making me uncomfortable.
Let me freeze that for a second. You heard what she said? It's really making me uncomfortable. So I don't see her as the aggressor.
It is your mom, but she doesn't know boundaries. Tyler, what don't you understand?
She understands boundaries. The more and more I listen to this, is the more and more I'm favoring her in this conflict. She's saying she doesn't understand boundaries.
Okay, so can you all right, so I'm gonna give you an example. So if we was to go on vacation or
I don't want to hear no example. What about how I feel? So it's your mom over me. You don't care about how I feel?
it's a great balance between the both.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. When she said, is it her mom or is it your mom over me? She should have finished the sentence and continued on to say, is it your mom over me since I'm your romantic committed relationship partner? She's your mother, I'm that. But when she said it that way, mom over me, it triggered the mom because the mother probably feels like she's over her. But it's a heated moment. And she should have explained it a little more. So it's not one or the other, it's both. It's both. You love your mother and you love your woman. And the love that you give your woman should not be a threat to the mother. And the mother should not be coming at the woman, her, in that kind of way. I'll let it roll.
But it's always
Miss Audrey, ma'am.
Mom,
Excuse me.
don't go, please.
Audrey, Tyler, shut up. Audrey.
She said, Tyler, shut up. What kind of respect is that for her son, who wasn't out of order, who wasn't screaming? She's out of order. In front of the woman, you're going to say something, Tyler, shut up. That's to let the girlfriend know, I got power over your man. See, a lot of times we don't really look into situations and break them down as we should. Even little things that happen that are red flags that we need to correct early on and make straight, no matter what position we have with these people who are in close proximity to us.
Straight. That's my son. I don't know how you grew up or whoever raised you, but that's mine, okay? And that's what I need you to understand. It has nothing to do with you. My boundaries, you saying that I go in your stuff, no, I'm cleaning it because you're nasty. Tyler, I told you could have did better a long time ago.
I love her.
No, you don't. You don't know. You couldn't possibly know what love is, Tyler. She's only with you for your money.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Mom,
what do you do?
Mom.
What do you do for a living? You do nothing.
I have an online business.
You just want to sit here and be
I have
cute.
an online business.
But what money does it make?
It
Tyler's money.
It makes money.
No, it's Tyler's money. It's
we
not your money.
Who asked you to come in here?
No one asked me. My son pays bills here. You don't pay bills, sweetie.
Okay.
You don't pay bills. You pay no bills here.
So are you gonna let her talk?
I can talk to her any way I please because guess what? You came from me, Tyler.
No, I'm saying though, come on, you can't be disrespectful.
This is way too uncomfortable.
You can't be disrespectful.
You know what, Tyler?
This is my lady. You can't be doing
It's
this too much.
Audrey.
Wow. Wow. In this type of scenario, really and truly can blow up into something that you're out in the street, the cops are called, people are fighting, because that mother definitely has it in for that the girlfriend, right? But let me move on. Neighborhood interactions. Living in close proximity to neighbors can sometimes lead to boundary violations, such as noise disturbances or encroaching on personal property. Open dialogue and mutual respect for each other's space can help maintain a harmonious neighborhood environment. Be considerate of noise level and property boundaries. Communicate respectfully with neighbors to address any concerns or conflicts, and participate in neighborhood events to foster a sense of community. There are other things also when you're dealing with the neighborhood interactions, is that you have people that feel that since they live next door to you, across the street, behind you, close proximity, that if there is no physical boundary, that you have the right that every time they come outside, you got to be up in their face. Now, you can be out in your yard anytime you want, and they can be out in their yard anytime you want, but they may be in a state of meditation. They may just want to be to themselves. So it doesn't mean you can just walk on over and there's this unwritten rule that we're all living together as one. No. Do I call you on over when I gotta go to the bathroom? Hey, listen, Billy, come on over. I got to take a dump. So, I want you to be there with me so we can continue this conversation. Something sick about that. There's something sick about that. So just because you live next door to somebody doesn't mean you have to be all up in their business. Let them see you. And it doesn't mean you're going to sit there and stare at them the whole time. They're in their yard, just staring. You go down to your back, here, they sit there and just look at you. What kind of weirdo stuff is that? Whenever you live near somebody or next to somebody and their Venetian blinds are broke, you know you got a nosy behind neighbor. Number 8, cultural and religious boundaries. Differences in cultural or religious practices may lead to misunderstandings or conflicts if not respected. Educating oneself about different cultures and religions and approaching discussions with sensitivity and open-mindedness can bridge those gaps. Educate oneself about different cultures and religions. Approach discussions with sensitivity and openness to learning and respect each other's beliefs and practices, even if they differ from your own. That's common sense. If a person is a Muslim and you're a Christian, that doesn't mean you're going to go over there and try to convert them to accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Just as much as you wouldn't risk over there and Muhammad on you. But the bottom line, you got to see them as a human being. They're coming from a different place. But that doesn't mean you both are not headed to the same destination. This is the thing we've got to understand, is that it's a big world out here. It's a big world out here. And we have people that want to push things on us. If that's in our destiny to go down that road that you're on already, then it will happen. Things must be done in a loving, respectful manner. And just like that video we just saw, Tyler, shut up. And what if the woman got mad and said, wait a second, that's my man. You can't talk to him that way. I'm the mother. You see what it is? We got to humble ourselves and understand how our roles are evolving. I mean, just because you live next door to somebody, does that mean those are the type of people that you're going to hang out with? You know what I mean? Usually it's not. Number 9, workplace boundaries. Maintaining professional boundaries in the workplace is essential for a healthy work environment. This includes respecting colleagues' personal space, avoiding gossip or intrusive questioning, and adhering to company policies on harassment and discrimination. Maintain professionalism in all interactions, right? This is what you have to do, because you can get in trouble quick now. You might hug a coworker and the third person there may feel uncomfortable and report you. Keep it professional. Keep it professional. You have enough hours in the day that if you want to go drinking with a coworker, go hang out with them, or you might have something going on, take it behind closed doors. We're all adults. Number 10, friendship boundaries. Friends may unintentionally overstep boundaries, whether it's borrowing belongings without asking or offering unsolicited advice. Open communication and addressing concerns respectfully can strengthen friendships and prevent misunderstandings. Isn't that something? Prioritize mutual respect and understanding in the relationship. Why can't we do that? What's breaking down the boundaries that we must assume have to be there? We can't assume, well, I know they cool with it. How many times have you invited one person over and you said, well, you're married or you have a mate? Well, listen, bring them. Bring them. We have a function going on and we have 2 complimentary tickets that we're going to give you. And we want you to partake in this particular thing because you've shown interest in it. And it's a way for you to acquaint yourself with this particular activity. I'm just making this up on my head. Why you got to bring 15 people? Why you got to bring 15 people? And now you mad at the person who gave you the complimentary tickets because you didn't let half your neighborhood in who ain't even interested in it, but they heard there was free food catered by a certain restaurant that they like. You can't do that. You can't overstep your bounds. If you're somewhere and there's an emergency and you're with your girlfriend and the parents know and everybody knows and you happen to be by her parents' house, but she has her own place and you have your own place. But you happen to be there and she doesn't know how to drive. And the parents are out and they were in the mall and her father slipped and fell and busted up his hip. He's up in years. Now she doesn't know how to drive. So the mother says, well, listen, say the boyfriend's name is Lance. Lance knows how to drive. Please let him take the Lexus that we have parked in the garage in the back and drive you over here because I want you here when the ambulance comes. And I get to drive the Lexus. They don't drive that car but once a week or once every 2 weeks to go to church or maybe a gathering. They work for that. That's their special let's go out vehicle, just like you have your Sunday best. Now I get to drive the vehicle. And so I bring my girlfriend on over to where the father and the mother is and the ambulance just gets there. Of course, I'm going to have to drive that vehicle back, but I have to drive her to the hospital. Now everybody's hungry and they want something to eat. And she says, baby, just if you can go out and get us something to eat and bring back, we're not going to stay that much longer, but we're real hungry. And mama's a diabetic. She needs to get something to eat. Now you go as a decent man should, you take care of what it is that they want and you bring it back. But they say they're going to probably stay there another 5 hours. And you say, oh, there's something I have to do by the house. I got to make sure to let my dog into the dog house or whatever. You may have a loved one there that you need to take care of. But you say that as an excuse. And now you gone for the next 10 hours. They're calling you because they're ready to come home. You got their Lexus. Nobody drives that Lexus. You just got to drive it because of an emergency. But here you are showing it off to all your friends in different neighborhoods. Yo, man, is that you? Yeah, man. Knowing good and darn well it ain't you. See what I mean? Boundaries. I have a good friend of mine I grew up with. He's like a brother to me. He always loved Corvettes. Brand new Corvettes. I'm not really into the sports cars, but I know how he takes care of it. And when he would leave, he'd say, listen, I'm parking this over by you. I mean, that's what we did. We're close, so he could say that. It wasn't like he was bossing me, right? It was no problem. Parking this over by you, here are the keys. I need you to run this car every day. I'm like, listen, I don't want to get in any accidents. It's like, yo, Lance, man, you're the best driver I know. I know you. I know your timing. I know this. I know how you drive. You don't push it, but you got skills behind that wheel. And I do. But I'm still not going to risk it. I'll drive my own and be carefree, not reckless, but just relaxed. But I don't want that man to come back and it's all scratched up or something. And I did take it out. And I did take it out every day. But I'm very careful with somebody else's stuff. Healthy boundaries. Not, oh, that's my man, yo, we grew up, right? Man, this New York, let's drive down to Philadelphia for the weekend. Come on, man. I'm not even driving around the corner but for too long, unless I have to. You see what I mean? It's crazy. In conclusion, as our living arrangements and social interactions continue to evolve, navigating healthy boundaries becomes increasingly important. By acknowledging and respecting each other's autonomy, space, and needs, we can foster stronger, more fulfilling relationships and create a more harmonious society. Why can't a black neighborhood, I'm not getting down and just trying to be no Tom for anybody else, but us in the black communities, why can't we have our communities associated with the word harmonious? It's not harmonious because we don't have the necessary boundaries. We assume things. A lot of us weren't raised properly, and that's no excuse because you had to be corrected enough when you overstep boundaries. Hey, man, we don't do that here. I had a guy come over, and this was out here in Ghana. And he had his wife, and, you know, I have Mrs. Scurv and all of that. And this guy came over and he had to say something to Mrs. Scurv because she's the one who's in charge of the gardening and knowing how to plant the seeds and what depth and what. He had a question for, no problem. His wife was outside and had children, and they were very young. One was a newborn. So, you know, they wanted to stay out and keep getting the air. So he came in. So I said, hold on a second. She's in the bedroom getting dressed. Let me call her and let's just wait a few moments for her to come out. This joker's trying to walk past me and walk in the bedroom. Like, yo, man, what are you doing? She's getting dressed. Didn't you hear me? I got between him and the door and I'm like, man, what's wrong with you? What you mean, what's wrong with me? Let's be real. Can I come in your house and push past you when your wife is in the bedroom and her titties out? I ain't supposed to see her titties. I'm not being disrespectful, but this is what it is. And that's probably what he wanted to do. See, some people are slick. That's why we have healthy boundaries. I remember in a past relationship, I won't specify. It was a living situation. Yeah, and it was a marriage, prior marriage. Yes, it was. I'll say what it is. And it was a girlfriend of my ex-wife that they were pretty close. They were straight. When I say girlfriend, I have to clarify these days, right? So she came over, and my ex-wife wasn't there, but she was soon to be there. So I called her up and I said, well, listen, how long are you going to be before you get back? Because, you know, she's here. She being a friend. I want to say the name. I'll be there maybe in an hour and a half, but it's going to rain real bad. And I don't want her to go because it's going to rain. Let her stay there and let her watch TV. And before I come in, I'm going to call you on the last stop at the last store to find out if you want anything. And she heard all of that. Oh, she's going to call before she comes in and she's going to be gone an hour and a half. I didn't think nothing of it. So I said, listen, you can go in the fridge. There's food on the stove. Here's the remote. The bathroom there, as you well know, full of toilet paper. I'm going upstairs. I got some stuff to do online. And so I went upstairs. I didn't close and lock the door. I had just finished showering myself and had my robe on, a big bulky robe too, not some little flimsy thing. One of them robes that when you're at home, you feel like a king, puffy and everything. I don't mean Puff Daddy. I said puffy, like puffy, you know, cotton, and, you know, you put a little necklace on and put your slippers on, you feel a little bracelet. You're like, it's almost like being dressed. You open the door like this, oh, you look like a king. But I had the door cracked, maybe 3 inches. And the way the door was, you couldn't look in because the way the wall, it was like a little hallway coming into the bedroom. So if you open the door, you couldn't see me. You had to come in. So I'm there on the computer, and I had music playing on one website. At this particular point in time in the world, YouTube didn't exist. But it was some type of streaming site that I was playing some music. It wasn't too loud. I kept it low enough where I can hear what was going on in the rest of the apartment, because it was an apartment at that time. So I'm doing my thing online. I'm writing something. I hear the music. It's a carpeted room. Why all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'm going to say the T word again, I felt 2 titties pressed up against my back, and I'm in the chair, and I turned around real quick like, what's going on? It scared me anyway. It wasn't like I registered that it was breast. I didn't know somebody was in the room with me. And it was her. She came up the steps, got into the room, and said to me, after I turned around and she pulled away, she's looking at the screen. She says, "What are you looking at? Porn?" And she could see that it wasn't, but she wanted to be very suggestive. And I never talked with her that way. I was only friendly with her in the presence of my ex-wife in passing, in a decent way. She says, "Listen, I'm feeling some kind of way. And I know you do too. It's about to rain. And you know," I'm not going to say the ex-wife's name. She said she'll call before she comes in. So I think it's safe. I know you have it on your mind. Come on, let's go. She found herself out of that apartment with the quickness and never liked me after that. Although I didn't mention that, I took care of it. I didn't want to cause any more mayhem. Maybe I should have blurted it out all over the world. So even though I have a reputation in the past when I was younger for not saying no, certain things you just don't do. And after that, she became a lifetime bitter enemy. Ain't that something? That's how life is. Oh, we got some good comments here. Does anybody want to come in? If they want to have anything to say or speak on, I'm going to drop this link. It's not mandatory, but if you had the need to do so and add on in, feel free. There's the link coming right there. Right there. Yes, let me see here. Charles Wilson, always leaving those good comments. Witchcraft, Satanism, demonic sorcery, low energies, frequencies, vibrations, pure evil, bottom feeders from the bottom, Babylonian confusion, murderous slave masses, and slave cold dark world. For real. And I want to speak on that. Whew, I'm not going to speak on it now because that might be what we talk about later on. Yeah, let's talk about that later on. It may not be a 5-hour show. We're going to keep that jab in the opponent's face. You don't have to come with a strong right across to knock you out. You keep throwing a soft, not a soft left jab, but a stiff left jab. Poop, 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 poop. That'll swell their eye up. That'll defeat the opponent and have them winded. Yes, it will. Anybody want to come on in? Just hit that link. If you have anything you want to say or share, I'm going to wrap it down in a few minutes. It's been enjoyable. And like I said, we have to talk about these particular situations with my favorite 2 words, with surgical precision. We used to sit down and have family discussions, even if it wasn't about our family. We may have observed something. We may have gone to the amusement park. We may have been at the county fair. We may have been at the supermarket and observed something that was a teachable moment to the family, namely the children. You see what happened there? Children at the Walmart? When that little boy cussed out his aunt, that is not acceptable behavior. And they know it, but you have to reinforce it by speaking about it. Let them know what the boundaries are. Let me tell you something. I grew up as an only child because I am an only child. I mentioned my brother, but he has a different father. He's my brother. I don't look at him as a half brother, but technically I'm an only child. So growing up, because he was always gone, I had my own room. And growing up, I didn't have to lock the door. Unless I was looking at one of those magazines, right? But other than that, I didn't have to lock the door. And my mother or my father, if they wanted to speak to me, they would stand outside the door and knock on the door and say, "Lance, is it okay that I come in? And if you're not ready for me to come in, let me know." I said, "No, it's okay, mommy. It's okay, daddy. Come on in." That gave me a sense that my boundaries were respected even before I knew I had boundaries at that age. Because if I'm respected at home with boundaries, then I need to be able to register easier that, I'm respected this way. I need to reciprocate. Because you got grown daughters and grown sons that won't knock on their parents' door of the bedroom and just, they'll knock, but the knock is not even to get a response. A knock is like, I'm only knocking just to say that I knocked. Boom, boom, you open the door. So now don't be mad when you see your mama and your daddy. And if you don't have both and they have company, don't be mad at what you see. It was almost like you asking for it. Boundaries, healthy boundaries, respect. How are you going to barge in on your parents' room or your mother or your father's room? I mean, mothers that have young children shouldn't be bringing somebody else over there. Same with the fathers. Maybe if the children that are young children are out of town and that other person's respectful, they know I ain't even trying to be seen by the neighbors because it's not that kind of show in the street. We're just going to utilize these four walls and the privacy that it brings to do what we desire to do for this particular time. But other than that, even when, fellas, you know that single woman, you don't show up at her house like that, even though you may have been there a couple of times discreetly when the kids were not around. You don't just show up and they looking at it like, who, what man is this? And now you upset and you tell him about it and he doesn't understand. No, you can't do that. So let's go down the list. And I'm quite sure those in the chat room who I see right here, you know what time it is. But there's some people out there who might listen and say, I ain't got to do that. No. And even if you disrespected before and didn't know because your upbringing was deficient in learning these rules and what healthy boundaries are, well, you need to humble yourself and not impose your ignorance on people because you weren't brought up properly. And you want to say they're stuck up. No. There's certain rules and unwritten rules that are part of the expectation on how we move about in the society in a civil and respectful manner. And then you want to get mad when somebody tells you about it. You want to get mad when somebody corrects you on how things are done here. You want to suck your no, you ain't bringing that ignorance here. You ain't doing it. One thing I don't like out here in Ghana is the dudes pee anywhere. And the women do too. But what I'm saying is that if you're on a crowded street, about to cross the street, how are you going to whip your thing out at the intersection where there are cars that are parked, not parked, but waiting for the light to change, and you just whip out? Look at everybody in the eye like it's all right. Good morning. What do you mean good morning? You got your dick in your hand out in public. You're about good morning. What is wrong with you? Or you in somebody's yard and you start pissing in their yard. That's for me to do if I want to do in my yard. You whip out and start peeing. No, you respectfully go off the property and go across the street behind that tree and you turn your back. Now, if the circumstances are a little different and you know it's okay, right? But other than that, decency. I remember walking down the street on a Sunday morning, right here in Ghana. There's a lady walking with a Bible and a broad hat. She's an attractive young lady. She was about maybe 20 car lengths away. And as I was walking in her direction and she was walking in my direction, we got closer and closer. So we got about maybe 6 car lengths away. And she bent down almost to touch her toes. She had a long dress on that was around her ankles. She pulls the dress up. I'm like, whoa, this is bright sunlight here on a Sunday morning. I know she's not crazy. She pulled the dress up around her waistline. She took her panties and pulled it to the side. You know, I'm a comedian. I said to myself, what is this, some kind of public invitation? And she leaned back and away and opened her legs while both of her feet were on the ground. She was standing, but she leaned back She leaned back a little bit, opened the legs, and pulled the lips apart and shot out a stream that was straight. Now, I didn't stop, but the 6 car lengths turned to 5 and to 4 to 3. And she was done when I got a car length and a half away. She dropped the dress, looked me in the eye, and said, "Good morning. Praise God. God is good." That was my day right there. I was like, there's a lot of things I got to get used to culturally out here. Let me share Charles's. I did the same thing for kids. I'm going to do the same thing for my grandkids. Mom didn't hold no punches at all. She and grandma were Southern ladies, and they had Northern firm mindset. That's a beautiful combination. I'm grateful for my elders, also and others, for the private one-on-one conversations. It helped me and others. I'm so grateful for all of them. And that's why, Charles Wilson, we have got to be that person for the generations coming up. Because even if a child is raised up in a wayward household where anything goes and you correct them or just pull them to the side and say, hey, you know, when they get that resistance as they get older, because they're going to step on toes, they're going to think about you and they're going to thank you. But these parents and these caregivers, they're not doing their children any favor by just letting them run all kind of ways, because usually the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. How many times have we seen in public well-mannered children sitting there quiet, well-dressed? Doesn't mean they have to have the best clothes on. I'm just saying they're not running around and dirtying themselves up. You hear them say please and thank you. And you're like, wait, the mother's nearby, but you don't know which one it is, maybe in a store. And they're just standing there. And you see the mother come back, and you got to say to her, listen, ma'am, I don't really know you, but I just want to say, I observed how respectable your children carry themselves. You were just standing over there about 5 feet. You could see them, but I observed that within them. And I got to thank you. You're doing something right. And you see the mother try to hold back the smile, but she'll smile because she knows that she took time to do the right thing by them children. And what happened to the elders? Which now we are the elders. I'm not the older yet. I'm 61, but to somebody 15 years old, I'm an old man. It's okay, because I still feel good. I'm taking care of myself. You never get old when you do the right thing on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. How you going to be old when the mountains that you see been there for millions of years before you got there? How you going to be old when that big tree that was big when you were 12 years old is still big now, standing, and you got gray hair now, and that tree pretty much, unless it's cut down, is going to be there after you gone? We come and we go out of this place so quick. So we need to do the right thing and extract the right stuff, right? Yes, indeed, Brother Lance, we have to help our children of the future to give them wisdom and knowledge, instructions to prepare them for war spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally, socially. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Brother Charles. Yes, because there's so many levels out here that they're not aware of. They're not aware of it, you know? But listen, family, I'm going to try to grab a little bit of the sunlight. I got 3 more hours of sunlight. I'm not blessed like those on the East Coast who may have another 7 hours or 8 hours, whatever it may be, of sunlight. I want to do a few things. I'm going to come back before I go to bed, which I always take an early bed these days in the mountains. It just does something to you. You don't hear the horns honking and all the stuff and ambulances and all the crazy gunshots and stuff. All you hear is animals mating and things, owls and bats and little things like that. Oh, don't talk about the bats. I don't want to talk about the bats. Not me. Gonna talk about the bats right now. But it's been a pleasure as always. And any other topic you want to speak about, you let me know. There's no topic that I will not speak about. I don't care how severe or how traumatic or how I'm committed to talk about everything and anything that we can learn from, because we see a lot of people around us who are adults and assume that they have the same background, the same training, the same experiences, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll step on our toes simply because they don't know. See? So we got to teach sometime adults by example in a loving manner, because we don't know exactly where they're coming from. And on that note, I'm going to grab a bite to eat, grab another shower, Take a walk out there and like Indigo King, do another 2-mile walk and come in later on and we'll be vibing later on. Much love to you all. I appreciate you for being here. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments. LANCESCURV out and on to the next one. This was really a pleasurable part of my day. Peace.
Make sure to go to LANCESCURV.com, an online magazine established in 2001, containing written articles, thousands of talk shows and discussions, cutting-edge cartoons, as well as erotic expressions and tasteful adult photography. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Once you get a taste of the world of LANCESCURV, trust me, you'll be back for more. LANCESCURV.com. Bold, raw, and uncut.